Hey there, I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and in this video we're going to be talking about mixed meter and how to make mixed meter more musical. That's a lot of M's, but how to make mixed meter music more musical. So hang on tight for that. If you enjoy this, please do subscribe to this channel. All right, let's do it. Great, so we have a piece in mixed meter. And we can count it. We know there's 6 here, and then 7, and then 6, and on, these different time signatures throughout. Well, so this is music theory, right? This is something that we do to make it look right on the page, is that we put music into these little boxes, which are measures. And that's just to organize it on the page. It's not actually how it goes in sound, right? So then whenever we have something in a steady beat, then it makes sense that we can tap our foot along to it, right? It makes sense in sound. Well, it's not always as easy to make sense of music in sound whenever it has mixed meter like this. For instance, how do we play this so it doesn't sound like we just accidentally added an extra eighth note somewhere in this measure, right? Because we want to grab onto a steady beat. We want to recognize patterns in our ear, in our head. Whenever we're listening to something, we're trying to make sense of it. And so if it's completely erratic and every single measure is different, and there's no, if we don't demonstrate as musicians, if we don't demonstrate to the listener how it's supposed to go, then there's no reason to think that they should understand how it's supposed to go. So it doesn't make sense in sound at that point. So to play this right here, I'm just going to play it absolutely straight. So to begin with, we can tell that this first is a downbeat, right? We have 5 notes in the first bars, pick up bar, and then we have a downbeat, and that's when our bass comes in. So that's obvious. We can demonstrate that. This is straightforward. And that tells us that we're probably in 6/8 or 3/4. So there's an extra eighth note in there. And it's really a simple melody, this one. It wants to be straight, but yet it's not straight. So how do we make sense of this? So whenever we have pieces in mixed meter, especially in 7 and 5s and the larger ones, we need to make them into smaller groupings. And so we need to group. So is this, in 7, is this 3 and then 4? Or is it a group of 4 and then a group of 3? Or is it a group of 2 and then 2 and then 3? Or 2 and then 3 and then 2? Or 3 and then 2 and then 2? Like what? How is it grouped together? How are the notes grouped together? So that it's not just one group of 7, but it's either 2 or 3 smaller groups. And so then to figure that out, you just have to listen to it and play it. So is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1? That was 4 and then 3. So then we just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. And to do that, you can put an extra space in there if you'd like to see if the groupings make sense musically. So you can just spread them out just a little bit. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1 is another one, right? And it's not that you would necessarily play these and accent the first or anything like that, but it's to make sense of it in your own mind so that you can demonstrate that if you know it, then there's a much better chance that somebody else can understand this as well. So for this particular one, I use 3 and then 4, a group of 3 and then a group of 4. So it ends up being this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And so I just think that there's this little dotted line right here separating these. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And I can lead across the bar in that way, thinking of it, and it just creates a sense of organization in the head. So sometimes it'll give it to you, right? So for instance, this first one is a full quarter note, and so that could be a group of 2, right? Or like I'm doing it here, it could be a 2 and then 1 equals 3, and then these are going forward. So you'll have to figure out how it is. It's not always straightforward. Like there's sometimes, like look at this right here. This is a problem spot, if ever there was one, because there's a bar of 5 and then a bar of 6, but the big chord comes in on beat 3 of the 6, which is not even a normal 6/8 thing, because this would be more like a 3/4, right? Because normally in 6/8 we have 1, 2, 3, and then a group of 4, 5, 6. But this is coming in on the 3, so it's weird already. Plus we have an extra bar in front of it, making like, so how do we actually make sense of that? And so one of the ways that you can do that is it's all about note groupings. It's all about grouping things together in your head. This is a little bit different of the scope of just doing mixed meter, but this 5/8 could be a number of things. It could be 2/3, it could be 4/1, it could be 3/2, it could be 1/4, it could be 2/2/1. Normally ones aren't really used all that much in groupings because it's just kind of a hiccup almost instead of a real note grouping. But it's important that we know what's going on so that we can play it with some sort of resolve and intention instead of just playing through it and hoping people figure it out. For this particular one, I would put a dotted line right here, make this a group of 4, and then this together a group of 3. And so kind of turn this into a group of 7, and then like a bar of 7, and then another bar of 4 right there. So then it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 1. And so we wouldn't necessarily accent, like I said, we wouldn't necessarily accent this, but we need to know as musicians what's going on so that we can group it, especially for music that is confusing sounding like this. Because if we just play it through and just play all the notes, it just sounds wrong. It doesn't work. You can't just phone it in and say the music speaks for itself here or something like that, because it doesn't. We have to make sense of it. We have to communicate what the music is doing. It has to sound good in sound. We can't just play the notes. So this has been mixed meter. So the way to deal with mixed meter is to make smaller groupings within it, 3/2, 2/3, 3/4, however it happens to be, so that we can then clap along with it. All right, hope you have enjoyed this video on making mixed meter more musical, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Please subscribe to this channel, and we'll do it again. All right, take care. Bye-bye.